The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America says 50 million people in the U.S. suffer from allergies each year. That's around 15% of our population. Most people live on antihistamines and nasal sprays throughout the year just to have some form of relief. And that relief comes with the side effects of being tired, sleepy, not being able to focus, and much more. As much as we want to focus on allergy symptoms, I think it's more important to address and understand the systems of the body that are calling for help. To help understand those systems better, it's a privilege for me to welcome back Mitch Coven to the show. He's a clinical herbalist and founder of Vitality Works, and he's here today to help educate all the chronic allergy and sinus sufferers what can be done to support your histamine response and breathe clearer again. Welcome to the show, Mitch.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Well, thanks for coming back. I wanted to bring you on the show today to discuss what people can do about chronic allergies and sinus issues, because here in Texas, it's almost springtime. And for me, that just means warmer temperatures and blooming plants. But for allergy sufferers, it means dealing with all the frustration of the allergy symptoms. And so
Sure.
I think, you and I have had a lot of things in common, that we always like to approach health challenges from more of a system dysfunction and not a symptom focused point of view. And you are one of the experts about this. And I love turning to you for these type of health challenges for people. Chronic allergies. Let's talk about that today.
Yeah, I hear you. It's chronic. And, the thing about allergies that, a lot of people probably already know is that you got to get ahead of it.
Yes.
You don't want to wait until you're in a super acute phase or everything's just exploding.
That's right.
So you plan ahead if you know when your allergy season tends to hit. You want to be taking things weeks to a month beforehand to lower your threshold on how your body reacts to all those pollens.
And speaking about how your body reacts, Mitch, I want to start by really addressing the question of why. Why do so many people suffer from chronic allergies?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an immune reaction, and it's a hyperimmune reaction. Whereas when people are getting chronic colds and flus, that's more of an immune deficiency where your immune system isn't working enough and those things overwhelm. With allergens, pollens, airborne allergies, just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Pollens they're just there, and we inhale them, and when the body sees them as an invading force, it can overreact. And a type of white blood cell called a mast cell or basophil, that's where the histamines are in those. And when their pollens are around, a lot of these mast cells will streamline to that area and degranulate. They fall apart. And inside are these inflammatory histamines, and they go in there and then they make you increase mucus. You start to sneeze like you want to expel. It's a big immune response. Your eyes water. You could actually throat can close off in an anaphylaxis if it's really extreme. And it's all completely unnecessary because they're just flower and plant pollens that aren't going to really get you. It's a hyperimmune reaction that we need to just say, whoa, and that's what antihistamines do in a big drug way.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how do we do it more naturally?
That's right. Those are the questions I'm going to want you to answer today for sure. But I agree with you. It's all about that system. I agree with what you said earlier, actually, that you got to begin sooner. You want to do things before that hyper reaction happens to your immune system, right?
That's right. There are things you can do. Actually, on the diet side, it's thought that, for instance, a lot of big dairy fats aggravate mast cells. So, one thing one can do dietarily is when that season starts to hit is to eat less inflammatory dairy products and less inflammatory fats like seafood, shellfish, because they're a bit inflammatory, and just start to pull back. When I was doing clinic full time, I would just have people start to decrease their dairy intake, especially full fat dairy, a month before allergy season hits. And just that alone, some people can find that they're less reactive than they were in prior years.
I totally agree.
So even things like that can be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Those hyperallergenic or food sensitivities that people deal with, it only adds to the accumulation of histamines building up for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, we can't control the air we're breathing as we walk around, but we can control the things that are allergenic. Certain foods, how much the cat is sleeping on our head. Can I put a HEPA filter in my bedroom where I'm spending a lot of time to decrease particulate in the air? What can I control that I know aggravate me,
Hmm.
and start to do as much as I can beforehand from a lifestyle
Exactly.
perspective.
Well, we know that most people pretty much live on histamines most of the time during the allergy season. So I wanted to bring you on and really talk about, what are some top herbs or products people should be having in their cabinets to be taking before allergy season starts?
Sure. One of the top ones is nettles.
Hmm.
Yeah, Urtica urens or Urtica dioica in Latin. And nettles is a wild plant that's cultivated for the medicinal use that we get. We have it grown for us in the Pacific Northwest in the US. And so nettles, green plant, um, some people know it when they walk through it as they're hiking, and it has little barbed hooks on it that can exacerbate like a reaction that no one would like. But when we take it and we extract it or put it into capsules, it limits a histamine reaction. It's well documented for the nettle. So it'll decrease how fast your body reacts to pollen so that the histamine reaction is cut back. It doesn't stop it. It's not an antihistamine drug where you're in a full-blown allergy attack. But for before the season starts and throughout the season, nettles is a king queen botanical, and it's the leaf that we use for that. And if we're taking it before the season starts, ideally a month before, if you can really look at the calendar and know typically when your pollens tend to hit, maybe you're taking it once or twice a day.
Hmm.
Maybe once a day. If you've had really bad chronic history, maybe then twice a day beforehand.
Yeah.
Different approaches in the acute phase. But nettles is great. There's some literature out there to suggest that one needs a freeze-dried nettles. And that was a study that was done and never compared it to non-freeze-dried nettles. And the study on freeze-dried nettles showed that it works, but they never compared it to other nettles. There's actually subsequent studies to show that freeze-dried nettles decreases certain constituent levels in nettles and is not better.
Ah,
And in fact, almost any properly dried and prepared nettles for encapsulation or liquid extraction works equally well, just in case people have heard about that. And that was a study that was done by Kathy Abascal and Eric Yarnell a couple decades ago. I know these folks
yeah,
who kind of debunked that myth on nettles, just as an FYI.
that's right. And what you're referring to, just to be clear, is that you're talking about nettle's leaf and not necessarily nettle's root, correct?
Yeah, nettle's root is more for urinary tract
Hmm.
issues and
Hmm.
prostate, more specifically, really.
Got it.
So it's nettle leaf, which is abundant, grows big and fast every year. There's a lot of it. We have it grown on a certified organic farm in the Pacific Northwest, like I mentioned. A lot of it comes from Italy as well. But it is the nettle leaf, and we get it in
Okay.
a dry form, and we make capsules out of it, or we'll do a liquid extraction for those who prefer tinctures or liquid extracts. And it's the king, queen herb in most allergy type botanical formulations, like our Calm, where we would add other herbs to it that do something slightly different.
Like what?
But not, yeah, good question. So in that formulation, there's another herb well known to affect allergies called eyebright. And the misnomer on eyebright, because of the name, is that people think it's for your eyes. And what it does is it's for allergic conjunctivitis. It's when your eyes get involved in an allergy, it works through the histamine pathway. It will decrease the histamine reaction. It's not going to help for near or farsightedness. It's not going to help for cataracts or other eye issues. You don't take it as eye drops. And that some people do, and that's not how you use eyebright. You take it in formulation more commonly, but what it does, a lot of people talk about what herbs are for, but it's interesting to understand what herbs do, and that's another herb through different compounds in the plant that limit a histamine reaction. So in the Calm, we put those two together. And a couple other herbs in there of note, one is another herb called Yerba Santa.
Hmm.
And that we actually have people go wild harvest for us in southeastern Arizona near the Chiricahua Mountains.
Oh, wow.
And we use the fresh new leaf growth from that plant called Areodictine californica, showing off my Latin. But that's Yerba Santa. And what Yerba Santa does, it excites the cilia and the respiratory tract. So from the lungs to the throat, sinuses, it just helps to move, it helps create a more of a homeostatic balance that if you have too much mucus or you're congested, it kind of helps resolve how much mucus those membranes are producing, because that's what those membranes are supposed to do. And typically you produce a lot more mucus if you have a bacterial, viral, or fungal infection to help get rid of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So mucus production is the body's attempt to cure itself. It's not the problem. You don't want to just dry it up. You want to treat what's causing it. So yerba santa helps resolve that mucus flow because it's an excess in an allergy reaction or hyperhistamine reaction. And there's one in the Allercalm, there's one other ingredient that's very unusual that we put in there. This was taught to me by in herbal traditions by a gentleman I studied with for many years, an herbalist by the name of Michael Moore, who had the Southwest School of Botanical Medicine, who has, is no longer with us, unfortunately. But there's an herb that we call ambrosia. It's the Latin name for a plant that's remarkable. The common name for ambrosia is ragweed. And now I was thinking, like, why would I take ragweed for allergies?
I know that will scare people away.
It would scare everybody away if they're thinking clearly. The trick is people have a lot of allergies to ragweed pollen. If you harvest ragweed before it flowers and pollinates, the leaf material without the pollens creates a very strong antihistamine reaction that's been known about for a very long time, more so in the homeopathic world. But we have people that we actually hire to go harvest ragweed. They think we're nuts that we're paying people to
That's
get some
right.
ragweed early season before it pollinates. And it's a very tiny percentage of the formulation, maybe 2, 3, 4% of the formulation. And we got to make sure we get it before it pollinates. And I've had remarkable clinical effects when we add the ambrosia. We call it ambrosia on the label because if we put ragweed on the label, nobody would ever buy it.
No, not at all.
Why? And it's hard to tell everybody why. Ambrosia is the Latin name, so we can use that. Which is also interesting because we think of ambrosia as nectar of the gods, or a salad with marshmallows and jello or something. But it's ragweed. In clinic, there were times where I ran out of that, and I was treating people for allergies, and I saw a remarkable difference. Even using nettles, eyebright, yerba santa, with and without ambrosia, made a big difference.
Really?
So we make sure we really stock up with it seasonally because there's a short window, a couple weeks a year to get it before it pollinates, and it's up and growing in the spring. And we harvest enough to last the rest of the year, and extract that and combine that into the Allercalm formulation, and it's way more effective.
Is that affecting the immune system at all too? I'm just wondering, it's almost like a homeopathic approach, it sounds like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So yeah, it's telling the immune system to calm down, because that's what an allergy is. It's your immune system hyper reacting when it doesn't need to. It's not like you have an infection where you need to really amp up what you're doing. And it's causing an inflammatory histamine mast cell reaction. So all of this works in the immune system by saying, calm down. There's this big insult is not really here. The pollens are not going to kill you or hurt you. They're just plant proteins, and your body is hyper reacting. So that formulation could be taken, a month beforehand. You can start, if you're not taking just nettles, like I mentioned, which is fine. Nettles can work. This formulation has a few other herbs in it to work together or synergistically through different pathways to accomplish the same mission of telling histamines, whoa. And so that can be taken once or twice a day, a month before. But if you missed all that and didn't know that, maybe someone comes to the store and clearly they're just in a full-blown attack, then you got to be taking it at least 3 times a day to really get on top of it.
More therapeutically, makes sense.
Yeah, bigger doses. It could be up to every 3 hours for a day or two, just to try to really stop a train wreck, if you will, of an immune hyperreaction, and trying to get it to calm down. And another time to say, I'm not going to eat inflammatory fats. I'm going to stay away from all the foods that I know aggravate me.
The dairy.
If wool makes you itchy, don't be around it. If you have animals and dander that make it worse, don't be around it if you can. And control your environment to get to a point where it's easier to control when you're not so acute.
That's right. Exactly. How much does your gut play a part with allergies, especially when it comes to histamines?
It's all reacting.
Hmm.
All the foods that maybe you get away with all the time, you eat a little bit of it causes your immune system to react to because they don't work well for you. You can be in a chronic state of attack all the time, but it's subacute, we call it. You're not really aware of the symptom picture, but your threshold for how much more you can handle is very small.
Hmm.
So that's why you'll see some seasons, you've been doing pretty well in your health and you can handle a lot more pounds ago. It was an easier year. And other years, a lot of emotional stress, your eating is poor, your irritable bowel is acting up, you maybe have some inflammatory gut type stuff going on, cranky colon is a little bit more reactive. Your threshold for blooming a full allergy
Yeah.
experience is so narrow. It's just a little bit more pollen, and there you are.
Yeah. The cup's
All of
spilling
the
over by
things.
that point. Yeah. Makes sense.
I'd even argue, if you're not getting enough sleep, everything is more
That's right.
reactive
Not
and
enough
sensitive.
water.
Not enough water,
Yeah.
not doing your exercise routine, not
Hmm.
in a healthy phase of your relationship or more stress with your kids.
That's right.
All of that stuff, decreases your threshold of any more stress, like pollens, where
Hmm.
you're going to be more reactive. So living a life to mitigate all those things matter. Eating a really clean diet, fresh produce,
Yeah.
really clean, try to
Less
get your bowel
sugar.
really regular, all matters. And doing things to help control those chronic stuff everywhere else more so will help you tolerate more pollens before you go into a full allergy outbreak
Hmm.
anyways. That's true for almost everything.
That's
The
right.
more you can keep on top of, we use the word balance and homeostasis. It is a chemical reality
Mhm.
and a system dysfunction picture that we want to control. Yeah, you're right. Water. I mean,
Yeah.
something as simple as water.
Simple as that. Dehydration can make allergies seem worse. Exactly. So, well,
Yeah.
Allercom's such a great product for allergies. What about people just coming in with that sinus pressure and the ears clogged up? What's your
Right.
top picks for something like that, Mitch?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good segue because allergies become a good breeding ground for secondary infections. All that mucus production and it's congested sitting there. It's easy to go into a sinus infection, sore throat, bronchitis, congestive lungs. And that's secondary to the allergy. When that happens, you have to treat what you've morphed it into. The allergy may still be there, but if you have especially sinuses are hard to treat.
Hmm.
Sinus infections, the chronic headaches from allergies and all
Yes.
that pressure from liquid buildup in sinuses that aren't that big and don't like pressure. That's the sinus blaster formulation.
Hmm.
The sinus blaster formulate, there's no one herb there that's great.
Yeah.
The sinus blaster
It's just
formulation,
an awesome product way around.
it's probably one of the most immediately effective formulations we've ever come up with and that are out there that you take it once and it makes a difference.
I mean, you will feel it as soon as you take it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's true. So what you want to do with sinuses there is open them up. You want to drain them so that your blood flow in there can get more white blood cells in there. You want to drain that mucus out of there. The sinus blaster formulation is it's like a liquid wasabi with other things. So we have organic horseradish grown for us in the Klamath Valley in the northwestern part of the U.S. and we extract it. If you've ever bitten into raw horseradish or had too much wasabi in a sushi meal, you know what I'm talking about.
I
It's like
do.
sinus missiles.
Hmm. That's exactly
And you
right.
immediately, those vapors go up into your sinuses and you drain right away.
Hmm.
It just has to be the fresh horseradish, which we extract before it dries, that we combine with things like even some peppermint and some peppermint oils, which, as you know, a nice dose of peppermint. Also, those menthol oils are volatile. So as you take them and swallow that with the horseradish, just the vapors go up right up into your sinuses,
Help open
and they
things up.
immediately start to open them up and drain them,
Hmm.
and so that your immune system can work with it. And then we add immune acute boosters right with it, like golden seal and elderberry, and a bunch of other garlic, uh, so that can excite your immune system. And they have compounds in the botanicals to say, go into that secondary infection, whether it's bacteria or fungus or virus, and stimulate your immune system to now go get them. It's not so impacted. And you feel better immediately. And You can open your sinuses just from any type of sinus headache. It could be from cold or flu.
Hmm.
It could be secondary to an allergy. Um, I use that formulation even when I'm doing high altitude outdoor events,
Oh,
hiking, or
interesting.
as I've done just a couple weeks ago, Nordic skiing in the backcountry at 10, 11,000 feet. I'm taking this all along because it really opens up your breathing passageways,
Yeah,
even though
it's
I
a
don't
great
have a
idea.
condition. Just you're going to go out there, and I know people who take it before they hit the Peloton, just
Hmm. Hmm. That's right. Just to
and
open yourself
really
up. You,
oxygenate and open that up. And snoring, the palate, people who snore, it's had some positive effects in opening up that passageway so one doesn't snore as much and everybody sleeps better.
well, Mitch, I definitely want you to talk about one of those herbs in there that you taught me about that I'm still fascinated by, and that's Spilanthes,
Yeah,
if I'm saying it
yeah.
right.
Spilanthes. Yeah, Spilanthes is a really interesting plant. It's not common. We have it grown for us on a certified organic and biodynamic farm at the Tesuque Pueblo in New Mexico and in Abiquiu, northern New Mexico. And Spilanthes has alkamides and certain compounds in it. We extract it fresh, and when the little flowers are peaking, it only grows maybe about 6, 8 inches above the ground.
Hmm.
And it has a lot of similar compounds to what echinacea has, angustifolia, that make your mouth tingle when you take it. And it just makes your immune system come alive right now.
Right now.
So, yeah, you think of the Pac-Man game. If Pac-Man's going like this, suddenly it's going like that.
That's right.
It's just doing what it's supposed to do because I want a little bit of a extra action right now. It's not going to aggravate the mast cell histamine reaction. It stimulates other types of immune cells to help clean up infection, if you will.
Hmm.
So it does that. It also, as you take it in the liquid form, those compounds make you increase saliva.
Hmm.
And saliva carries digestive enzymes for carbohydrates. And so it increases those digestive juices as well as what the stomach secretes, hydrochloric acid, pepsin. And it kind of increases your ability to break down even protein. So it kind of gets you juicy in your digestive tract. It gets your immune system more active right now. And it's just a really cool herb. And it makes your mouth a little bit juicier if you have dry mouth.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
ask you about that. I wonder if that would be good for people who are suffering from dry mouth as well.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. That would be a
interesting.
clean herb by itself.
Yes.
It could be people who are going through chemo. It could be
Hmm.
for any reason dry. So when you're under a lot of stress, your mouth tends to dry up. As people say, I got cotton mouth. I'm really stressed out for one reason or another. It will just make you secrete more saliva.
That's right.
And and so we see even usages like that for even chronic gum disease.
Hmm.
Because a lot of bacteria builds up that leads to periodontal disease. Because if your mouth is dry, the bacteria proliferate and create a lot of gum issues. So
That's
if you
right.
secrete a lot of saliva, you tend to have less periodontal problems.
Interesting.
So that's another application. Again, what do the herb do, and then what does it treat? If it
Exactly.
increases saliva, what does that mean? It means I'll break down my carbohydrates better. I'll have less periodontal disease. I'll just be juicier in my mouth when I go in for that kiss, whatever it might mean. Take it from there.
That's right. That's a good point. I love it. Before I let you go, though, Mitch, one more herb I want you to discuss, and that is OSHA root, its
Yeah.
benefits, and how we use it.
Yeah, OSHA is an herb very few folks can get. It grows in the Rocky Mountains, northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, above 9,000 feet typically. And we have an individual who goes and wild harvests for it very carefully in certain areas only in New Mexico. And we use the root of the plant. And OSHA stimulates the white blood cells that live in your lung. It's a type of macrophage, which is a white blood cell that doesn't circulate in the body. And it stimulates those white blood cells to fight anything in the lungs, whether it be, again, I've said the words viruses, bacteria, or even fungal infections that can lead to bronchitis, chronic congestive states, clearing your throat. Um, and it bronchiodilates, so it can be used even in asthmatic, congestive,
Oh,
CPD
really?
kind of
For
conditions.
asthma.
So it pulls blood into the surface capillaries of the lungs. And as it does that, it opens up your thoracic or chest cavity. The hematocrits come in there, and so it helps the body release carbon dioxide and pull in oxygen in that mode. So it does a few things. It helps to oxygenate. It stimulates those white blood cells in your lungs. So if you have a secondary infection to allergies where we started that have affected your lungs and you're always clearing your throat.
Into your chest, yeah.
Yeah, chronic bronchitis. You're on antibiotics for cold flu type conditions. OSHA is better than golden seal. It's more specific than oregano oil. It's really affinity to the lungs and the throat are profound, whereas that sinus blaster's affinity is to the sinuses, and that's your respiratory. It's all connected.
That's
but
right.
Certain herbs target it differently. So you could actually take OSHA, which is the main herb in the capsule formula called Congestes. You can take either of those with sinus blaster and kind of get everything if you're feeling like, I have infection that's affecting my sinuses and or my throat and lungs to any degree. You got to do more than one thing because any one herb doesn't do everything.
That's right.
They may be specific to the location in terms of where they're excreted and how they function.
Exactly. So yeah, Congestes. I mean, I always saw that OSHA root was just an underused herb out there because you're right, not everybody makes it, and you're one of the few companies that have taught me about it, and I think everybody should know about it. It's just a fascinating herb.
Yeah, and it's an herb just to increase your immune protection. Let's say I'm going on an airplane, or I'm visiting someone in the hospital, or I'm a school teacher and I'm around a lot of bacteria and viruses. It can really help open that up. So that, you have a little bit more protection. It's mainly used in acute modes.
But so you don't need to take it all year long necessarily.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. But it's another herb that, high altitude, it'll help open up, the way that we talked about sinus blaster, opening up the sinuses. OSHA opens up the lungs. Mm-hmm. So I pack both of those in my pack while I'm at those elevations, because I want to enjoy my experience. I want to breathe in amazing clean air and not get rid of the crud from the past, a little bit of a cleanse, and being able to breathe out the old and breathe in the new good. And it's pretty remarkable right in the moment that you take it.
I agree 100%. So really just to summarize, probably the top three things I would have in my cabinet would be the Allercom, the Congestes, and the Sinus Blaster.
Agreed.
Yeah,
agreed, because it'll cover some of the individual ingredients like the nettles that's in the Allercom, OSHAs and the Congestes. You can do those. The formulations have just a few more things to synergize with them and do slightly different things for that system dysfunction to help turn it around.
Yeah, we sell both the formulas, and you can buy them by itself, so you can get them either way, which is great. I've always loved the formulations. You've always been a master formulator, so I definitely trust the formulation for those type of issues.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. Those are good things to have around sometimes before you finally figure out that you need them today.
That's right. But Allercom would be something that you would probably tell everybody to, take throughout your allergy season and starting before your allergy season. If not, you could take it all year if you had to, correct?
That's correct. I've had people with such chronic allergies that, they've been on them 9 and 12 months. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they find out when their next allergy season rolls around, it kind of didn't happen. But when you have a chronic history, you got to take things longer to turn around the past. It's just the way it is.
Exactly.
And that's a trick. I mean, with a lot of folks, friends that were like, I took it a couple times, didn't work. You got to take some things for quite a while.
Exactly.
And then you realize, oh my God, what a difference. Mm-hmm. That I don't go to those places where I used to have complications from allergies, cold flus, fill in the blank. You've got to be consistent for a while to turn around that system dysfunction. These are our herbal friends. They're not drugs that just shut things down in a toxic, consequential way.
It's helping the body do something better.
Consistent.
I totally agree. Consistency is the key for sure. And, like you said, you got to be able to start early enough and really support that process. And taking it just a couple of times is not going to work for you because there's so many variables that really make things worse or better for us. Like you said, your diet, your hydration, your exercise, the time of the year, all those things impact it.
Even vitamins, all of those things. You got to be consistent. It's
Exactly.
remarkable when you can take something here and there and it works like right now, like the sinus blaster.
Yes.
Or OSHA when I need more oxygen because I'm really working out hard and I'm in high elevation. Those things are right now and could be all the time.
That's
So
right.
that's kind of the exception that it's like, what a difference right now.
Well, it goes back to what we initially started with, Mitch. It's about system dysfunction, not necessarily symptom focus, right? I know we want symptom relief, and that's what most of us are, customers are coming in for the store when they have already got the issues going on, but we're trying to teach people you be proactive and do these things before your season hits. It can make a
Totally.
world of difference in the long run.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
that's
right.
true for pretty
Health,
much
all health
everything.
issues, exactly. Mitch, your information is always so valuable, man. I really appreciate you being here again today, and I know we'll see you again in the future without a doubt, because you've always been a secret mentor of mine, and I appreciate all the information you bring to the table, man.
It's an honor and a privilege. I love sharing the information. We're all learning all the time. Glad to be part of it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Healthy Approach Podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you like this podcast and help us spread the word by rating and sharing with your friends and family. If you'd like to learn more about the products we discussed or what you can do for allergies, go to sunflowershoppe.com. That's shop with 2 P's and an E, or visit us at one of our 2 locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.